Game 8 of the World Chess Championship match, and the drama just continues. Just when you think you can't add more drama, we do. But first we're going to look at the game 8. So after game 7, Nepomniachtchi is leading by 1 point, 4-3. And let's just dive right into this one. This was an epic game yet again. Ups and downs. Ding started with d4 this time. He seems to be varying between d4 and c4. And we have c4, e6. We already had this when Ding went with knight f3 and played this h3 line that we saw early in the match, but now knight c3. He allows the Nimzo-Indian, and Nepo plays the Nimzo-Indian, bishop to b4. We have e3, the Rubinstein variation, castles, and white plays a3. Kind of an aggressive line. Generally, black is trying to control e4 in the Nimzo, but here after d6, knight e2, and c5, he kind of cedes the e4 square and is playing for a blockade. You know, he's blockading the c pawns and wants to later, you know, attack them and try to win a pawn. Game continues, knight c6, and now we have this move, rook to a2, and this sort of leads into the added drama of the match. This move has only been played, well, it's never been played in a classical game, and it's only been played in one game on lead chess in the whole database of gazillion trillion games. Okay? Two players rated 1500 played rook a2. They also played other games, apparently training games. It looks like Ding's training games have been leaked. There are games with h3, and there's a game with exactly this line. And these accounts have only played each other, and they were, they were both created on the same date, and these games were played, you know, in February or March. So, big thing there. I'll probably make another video on that. But continuing with the game, b6, black goes on with the blockading strategy, securing this pawn on c5, so that he can later play against these pawns very often. We'll play bishop a6, knight a5, just try to attack these pawns. White goes e4, bishop to a6, starting this plan that we mentioned. Now bishop to g5. Black hits back at the bishop. Bishop has to make a decision, or does it? h4. And yeah, this is definitely what Ding's team was cooking. A piece sacrifice, but a temporary one. Kind of like a fishing pole trap. Now if the knight moves, we're in deep trouble. Let's say knight here, the queen comes in, and this is pretty basic. Either we take here, or if the knight moves, you take here. I will checkmate on h8. So black actually has to give the piece back, and he does so by playing g6. It was probably better here for Nepo to take on d4, and then do the same thing as he did in the game. The difference is that now white does not have this idea of playing e5, because after it takes d5, it now has to move knight d4. Let's see what happened in the game. And remember this knight d4 idea. Same thing happened in the game. Takes, queen takes, e5 now by Nepo, and he pushes the d pawn. And this would not have been possible in the other line because we have traded pawns. But here, keeping the pawns means that we control the d4 square. So the knight has to move back, knight to e7. Could have gone to a5, but I guess you need a defender. White has many aggressive ideas. You know, he has knight e4 in some lines. He has, you know, queen here, going to the h file. Things to worry about. So he prefers to keep a defender near the king. And after d6, he goes knight to f5. Ding keeps the knight on. It's a dangerous piece. And queen d3. Already we're eyeing some dangerous idea on the h file. Interesting how white is using the rooks in this game, not castling yet. King g7, preparing to meet queen h3 with rook to h8. g4, very aggressive, the way Ding is playing here. Bishop back to b7. A nice defensive resource, a tactical defense here. If we now take the knight, g takes f5, there's e takes f5, and the pin here means we win the piece back. And moreover, a move like queen h3, we don't have to worry about any mate. We can just take here, and the king can actually run and have shelter here. So instead he played rook h3, got the rook out of the line of fire here on this diagonal. Now the knight has to move, and g5. Isolating his knight, and bishop takes e4 is bad move here by Nepo. He should have played rook h8. When the game continues, very dynamic and interesting game, but bishop takes e4 is a blunder. Now this knight is under attack, it has to come to f5. And now this fantastic move, rook to d2. And this keeps the d6 pawn. You can't take it because of queen takes e5 check. And you also can't take the pawn on g5. Because I will play queen takes e5 check. And you have to play f6. If you go to g8, I mate you. And if you play queen f6, we play a tactic which I have made a pattern recognition video on. We call this the rook force divorce. You play the rook here, and you force a divorce from the king and the queen, and then you take the queen. So you'd have to play f6 here, but then queen h2, and Ding had a wonderful idea in mind here. Rook h7 is threatened, so it looks like we can interpose on the h-file, but here queen takes d8, double exclam, and the pawn is going to make a new queen, and white is winning. So Nepo couldn't take the pawn on g5. Instead he played rook h8, game continued, we take on h8, queen takes h8, and now d7. Should still be very good for white, but here rook d3 would have been very clean, intending rook h3, and then again we probably enter on the h-file and black is hurting real bad. Instead d7, rook d8, queen takes e5 check, and good practice here by Ding. He repeated the position a few times before eventually going c7. This gains more time on the clock and moves him closer to the time control, so he gets extra time. So very good, this is a good practical way to play when you have what you believe is a winning position and you want to avoid time trouble. Okay, queen c7, queen h4, and this is sort of the key moment in the whole game, maybe the match. Now this move is kind of a bluff by Nepo. He's saying you can take my rook, but if you do, I'm lending a perpetual. And he's claiming, I have this under control, I've seen this, you can't do this. And Ding believed him and he played king d1. But he could have taken the rook on d8. So let's see what happens if this had appeared on the board. Queen e4. Now we can quickly discard bishop e2, queen check, bishop has to come back and check again. Same thing for king d1. That's immediate draw, queen check here, and we keep checking on this circuit. We check again, and that's an immediate draw. So in this position after queen e4, the only move for white to try to win is to play rook to e2. We're threatening to give a check here and then the queen, so black has to keep going. He has to give checks, so queen b1, king d2. We have to give checks. Queen b2 seems like the most logical, but now we go king d3. This is all forced. It's difficult, it's a long line, but it's also forced. Queen b1 check. Now we play rook c2. Black has two choices. He can take the bishop, or he can give a check on d1. If he takes the bishop, we play king d2. And this looks relatively easy. We only have this check and then the king runs. And there's no problem with any stuff on c4. So you can't take the bishop. So you only have queen d1. But now we make a run for it. King e4. Again, you give this check. The main move is here. I mean, if you give this check, I can probably just play bishop e2 and probably at the queen h1 just f3 or something. Or just king e5, yeah. Keep running or even come back. So queen takes c2 looks like the most critical move. And in that case, we go bishop d3. No more checks, then have to check, no check here, no check here. So you have to give a knight check, otherwise you just make a queen. King e5. And now, no more checks, so you have to take this. I get a queen, get another queen. Well, get one queen. I give a check and get a queen. And this looks scary, but there's nothing further. There's no mate. If you play queen here, I take your knight. There's no queen here. Check here, I take your knight and run away. So you have to try this, and then we just keep on running. No checks with the queen. You have to play e5. And there's one check here, and eventually, after all of this, king g3, and there are no more checks. And mate is imminent. So black would have to trade queens, and yeah, it's game over. So unbelievable line, pretty forced, not out of the scope of Ding's calculation abilities, but in this case, maybe he trusted Nepo or didn't trust himself. It's hard to say. But in any case, he played king d1, queen takes d5, but still white is doing quite well here. Let's not forget about that. Bishop d2, e5. Computer wants to play knight d4 here, takes and then take on d7 and try to fight there. White is definitely one for choice there, but e5, and now bishop e4, knight h6. Ding starts to grab some material, queen takes a7, knight g4. And here, another critical point, Nepo gets a chance to get back into the game after bishop f3. To bishop c6, it's hard to see how black will survive this. We got the pawn on the lock and key, which ties down black's defense. We'll be able to take a pawn soon. King looks like it's always going to have shelter if they start pushing something here. Bishop c6, and white is probably, for choice, probably winning. Instead, after bishop f3, white conceded this amazing resource, and Nepo did not miss his chance. He took on f2, Ding took the knight, and now e4. Rook e2 pinned the pawn, f5 defends it, now queen takes b6. Now the problem here is that, let's say we move a bishop here, rook takes d7, we move our queen, black is going to play rook b7, and turns out the rook is just going to chase the queen, and there's nothing we can do. We can actually run with the queen, like on a circuit like this, and hide here, but then black starts to move in. We can just quickly show that, something like this. We keep attacking the queen. And if you want to avoid the draw, you have to go here. But now we'll look at this, and I would start to feel worried here with the white pieces. We have a bad bishop, our king is in trouble. Actually, now we are introducing the chance of losing this game. So in the end here, after a queen trade, Ding took on e4. If you move the bishop, he's going to move the king in and then start moving the pawns forward, and they're going to be too much. So Ding eliminated the pawns, and now we have a drawn rook endgame, and that was the result. A draw in an epic game. But the story is also, how will the leaked prep affect the rest of the match? This is a huge mistake by Ding's team, and this will have repercussions. We'll have to wait and see, but another epic game, super interesting match, and yeah, the drama has joined the party as well. So thanks for watching, see you later, bye bye.